I was just too sick, or I was in so much pain to the point where I couldn't make it to my classes. And I remember for one of my classes in particular, I had emailed my TA and just told him about my experience and what I'm going through, and he responded by telling me that he thinks I should, just drop that class. And for me, that was very difficult because I was never a person who would take no for an answer, but I also felt that people put me in this box because of my illness and because of what I was going through. And they put me in this box of, being too sick and being too weak and not being able to do anything, which, in a lot of cases and a lot of times is true. But for me, I really needed that support, and I really needed someone to tell me that this was going to be okay. But I just didn't know how to communicate that idea at the time. And so for me, I think that the idea that I had to work, 10 times as hard as everybody else just to keep up. And that for me was so difficult. And I would take my studies to the hospital. Even when I was undergoing chemotherapy, I would study. And I think that experience just taught me that, if we have the right support and we have the right community, we can really do anything. And I was so fortunate to have this community that enabled me to get through my first year of school while also undergoing chemotherapy.
This is the story of Maha. She is an international student from Saudi Arabia and an undergraduate senior in political economy at the University of Washington. She is a cancer survivor of 2 years now and a passionate advocate for international student inclusion and representation. She has been involved with ASU-Dub and international student community for over a year now, and she's aiming to leave UW, having established the first ASU-Dub International Student Office of Advocacy and Engagement at the University of Washington.
For me, I think my most defining moment of my journey here at UW as an international student was actually on my first day of freshman year. I received a diagnosis of blood cancer, specifically non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I decided that I would undergo chemotherapy while also going through classes. So my father was here to take care of me, and he was always very supportive. But I think that experience of undergoing chemotherapy throughout the entirety of my freshman year really made me hyper aware of how I was undergoing a different experience than most of my peers. And with also being an international student, I just felt that me being sick and then also me being an international student made me feel kind of alienated. And I felt that there wasn't a place on campus where I could share my experiences or where I could talk about who I am and where I come from, and where I could just lean in on support. And I think that one of the first things that I did do was that when I received my diagnosis, I promised myself that I wouldn't let anything get in the way of my education. My parents and my family and myself as well, there have been so many sacrifices throughout my entire life to get me to where I am. And I just knew that this was something that I've been wanting to do my whole life. I also leaned in on, friends and family, but I think that, I really embraced the experience that I was going through. I lost my hair 2 weeks into chemotherapy, but I promised myself that I would embrace it all, no matter how I looked like or what I was going through. And after I finished chemotherapy and I finished my freshman year, a year later in my junior year, I started interning for the ASUW Office of Government Relations. And that experience really made me reflect on my identity, specifically as an international student, because I noticed how student government was really disconnected from the international student community, and international student voices weren't really part of the conversations that were going on when it came to student issues or how to advocate for students. And from there, I actually found a group of international students who were trying to establish a new office for international students within the ASUW, our student government. And that kind of pivotal moment where I joined that team and joined the work really shaped the trajectory of how I came to see myself as a part of the community on campus, but I also came to see how, we as international students, we have so many diverse experiences. We come from different places all over the world and we speak different languages, but we have this shared experience of, coming here from a different country and just adjusting to a new culture and a new environment. And for me, I just wanted to ensure that whenever conversations that were happening regarding student issues, that international students were given a seat at the table, and that international student voices were included. And we're still continuing the work up to today. But yeah, that's where my journey as an international student really started. And that's when all of the work to advocate for more representation. And that's where I met so many new international students, so many new RSOs, and I really came to find this shared community that, on the surface level, you don't really realize it's there. But once you slowly get involved, you start to realize how deep this community is. And I personally want to graduate and make sure that other international students who come here after me and after, the team that I'm working with, that those students easily find those communities and easily find those resources that really help them feel that, their voices matter, that they belong on campus, and that, their experiences are just as valid as anybody else. I, along with a group of students, we were trying to establish the importance of international student voices, and we were trying to convey to everyone else how the international student voice is currently not present in our conversations regarding students. And we surprisingly received a lot of opposition to that idea, and that for me was very tough, because I felt that I was standing there and I was sharing my story, and I was sharing all of the stories of all of the other international students who are struggling, but our experiences were invalidated as we were having those conversations. And a lot of stereotypes concerning international students came up, and to me those were one of the really tough moments where I felt that we had to persuade people that we were worth fighting for and that we deserve to have a voice. And for me, I didn't feel like that conversation was even supposed to happen, because all students